Hi, my name is Ms.Mora, and today we'll be covering Chapter 3 of Fostering Self-Regulated Learning through ICT, which covers the design of the SEAI Self-Regulation Assessment for Young Children and ethical considerations of psychological testing. The process of self-regulation in education has been studied greatly to encourage the further development of psychological testing in sample groups of students to increase student motivation, academic success, and proficiency scores across disciplines that can lead to better life outcomes through their academic endeavors. Self-regulation is a metacognitive process that stems from our internal reflections of our environmental conditions that guide behavior to attain a goal. Self-regulation is a strategy that is used by all of us as a way to modify our behavior depending on our experiences that guide our performance, our self-reflection, and our cyclical thoughts about how to reach it, and the desired outcome further explored by Barry Zimmerman. Self-reports are often used to measure self-regulatory patterns but can cause an increase in difficulty in its validity and interpretation of it, as there are a multitude of variables that can change their outcome. Children under the age of 6 are at a developmental age where it is difficult to measure self-regulation, as they're still learning how to self-regulate not only of their emotions but of their thought patterns, which are moving away from themselves and expanding their reasoning skills that are becoming more sophisticated through brain development. Adults, on the other hand, can go through inflated self-report measures that inflate their metacognitive abilities, or that are bound to forgetting, as self-report measures are often done from past behaviors. In the modern world, the use of computers has greatly contributed to the increase in psychological testing done on cognition through computer programming. Computers not only have the ability to be programmed with user interactivity and recording capabilities, but can also code for certain behaviors expressed that can be analyzed statistically to produce results that can be interpreted based on quantitative measures without interrupting the student. Computer interactivity can be embedded to interact with the learner through feedback, assistance, clarification, hints, and rewarding positive behaviors. Likewise, it can track the immediate response and behaviors of the participants and can lead to a decrease in observational biases of naturalistic observations to increase the reliability of the results obtained. The theoretical model created by Pinterest expresses 4 main processes, with each displaying 4 areas that can be used for the development of software that can measure self-regulation among participants with accuracy and validity. The 4 areas include cognition, affective, motivational, behavioral, and contextual. The 4 phases include planning, monitoring, control, and reflection. The cognitive area is highly involved with the mental processes that allow an individual to reach their goals in an academic realm. The planning process involves the participant activating previous knowledge of the material being presented that is related to the concepts that allow further cementation of the information into long-term memory, and goal setting to prepare one's attention. The monitoring process aims to control intrusive thinking patterns, distractions, and cognitive outliers to ensure that the goal completion will take place. Likewise, the control process includes the steps that the individual carries out to maintain focus on targets, such as ignoring irrelevant thoughts, repressing unrelated ideas, and using other things to change their cognition. Lastly, the reflection process is where the individual can assess their cognitive efforts and their personal attributions to the task that can guide the emotional sphere. The affective motivational area stems from the student's emotional reactions towards the academic task. Planning involves making a judgment upon the task, anticipating the value of the information being given, and analyzing the difficulty level of the material being presented. The monitoring phase allows a student to be aware of their emotional states to try to modify if needed. In the control phase, self-speech can occur to redirect negative emotions or remind oneself of the external reward for the task being accomplished, such as a good grade or a successful project assignment. Similarly to the cognitive area, the students will explain to themselves the reasoning behind their emotional states to confirm how they reacted. The behavioral aspect refers to a student's external behavior to try to control their behavior throughout the activity, which requires planning to determine the effort needed to be expended to complete the task and the average amount of time that the task will take to complete. Monitoring of the behavior ensures that adjustments are made to preserve the original plan regarding effort, where controlling the behavior is depending on the difficulty of the task. Harder tasks require a greater amount of effort in comparison to easier tasks that can become automatic over time. The reflection process requires the self-analysis of the task completion to continuously adjust the behavior if needed. The contextual sphere includes the external environment in which a student is placed in that affects him or her, where the student can try to control and regulate their context. The planning phase encompasses the activation of the perception of their surroundings, such as noticing the lighting, distractions, resources, and strategizing what is needed. The monitoring stage is a process by which a student analyzes their social environment, such as their peers and their instructor, to further advance their social resources in the learning context to help them increase their knowledge of the subject matter. As they monitor their social systems that are in place, they try to control the norms of the interactions and form relationships that increase their ability to gain information towards the completion of the task. As they reflect upon their actions, they evaluate the activity in the class environment. Using the theoretical model of psychology to understand the various activities that an individual has to go through to regulate themselves during an academic task, the model for designing computer-assisted assessment uses it to try to enhance self-regulatory behaviors expressed by the student. It incorporates two areas of interest where the student is overtly and covertly displayed to be analyzed. The substantive area refers to how the student is able to learn the material and use it effectively to apply the information to solve problems. On the other hand, evidence-based reasoning aims to find out the depths of the student's knowledge and find evidence for it in what they say and do. The levels of the computer-assisted model emphasizes how the knowledge that is meant to be gained must be analyzed starting from the student model that can be captured by the computer program itself by tracking measures in answer completion, time taken, and further coded behaviors that can be analyzed systematically. The student model includes a student comprehension of the task, planning efforts to accomplish the goal, self-efficacy felt during the task completion, the amount of help that the student sought, persistence through challenges, self-assessments, and attributions created for the performance. The evidence model corresponds to the behaviors that demonstrate that skill is being assessed, such as the coded covert behaviors that can measure achievement and their interactions with the material, to determine the student's analysis methods upon choosing their answer choices. The task model presents the environmental conditions for the student to display what they know through various perspectives. For example, the psychological perspective in the cognitive actions that the subject must present to determine that the amount of self-regulation that is need to be expressed. The instructional perspective describes the curriculum presented that the student must be able to interact with, while the technological perspective is the virtual needs of the student that can be guided by the use of virtual tutor to further ask questions and assess their skills. Finally, the perspective of the student is the interactions expressed with the system software to engage the student within their developmental age. Continuing with the levels of the computer-assisted model, we have the assembly model where the assessments were generated in collaboration with other studies to ensure that the assessment used are fit for the age group and the comprehension of the material with the normative data that can be changed if needed. The simulation model aims to help the child become adjusted to the task by increasing the amount of help and guidance that a teacher provides inside of the classroom by using an online tutor to simulate the help administered in a typical classroom. The environmental model tries to create an atmosphere that the child is accustomed to within their classroom to provide continuity and decrease testing anxiety. The ethical considerations can increase the security of the information collected as it can be stored and encrypted. The people who administer the tests and data collection must have the required training to effectively interpret the results in children and the technical expertise to exercise the evaluative properties of the self-regulation assessment. The interpretation of the reports is vital for its future use as it requires the researchers to not only look at the data collected, but view the characteristics of the participants to effectively conclude the reliability and validity of the result. Possible third variables need to be evaluated during the analysis process that aims to produce results that are better equipped for young children between the ages of 4 and 6 who have developmental difficulties with previous methods of assessing their self-regulatory patterns if administered correctly. The characteristics of the participants can inevitably alter the course of the data analysis and disrupts the data collection process. Student attitude towards the assessment can produce results that are not factual, as their motivation can contribute to false data collection, and their experience with computers may affect their predispositions to computer navigating practices. Even though their psychomotor capabilities can prevent the child from assessing all of the tools and features that are online, this program has programmed minimal use of drag-and-drop options to implement clicking functionality. The words and images depicted in the assessment are age-appropriate and equivalent to the comprehension rates of the age group being studied, with the use of small animations to project attention to certain aspects of the screen with appropriate icon sizing. The equivalence to paper and pencil administration ensures that the instruments and measurements used are measuring the construct needed to provide valid results that can be interpreted for young children. The activities used have been previously studied under normal laboratory testing for self-regulation and have been developed into online format. As with any study, confidentiality is crucial for the ethical considerations of a study to ensure that the participant's information is guarded against misuse. By the participant being denoted a number, all information collected is encoded onto a flash drive that is protected from users that would not require access to the information and ensure HIPAA compliance. Assessments that are implemented require rigorous testing, requirements, and ethical considerations for them to be used in psychological settings. For this to function, all aspects of the assessments need to be assessed to ensure that the constructs are being effectively measured, variables are operationalized, and systematic statistical analysis are conducted to compared to typical methods to study self-regulation in children. The introduction of computers into psychological testing provides a multitude of benefits that must be used cautiously by researchers who are trained to analyze possible errors in testing, can use the data collected to further develop ways to increase self-regulation in children, and implement ongoing research into the area with differentiation to the traditional methods employed. Thank you.